Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into a massive, highly anticipated feature rolling out in the Dynamics 365 Business Central 2026 release Wave 1. We are talking about the brand new, completely native expense management module. For the longest time, managing employee expenses in Business Central meant you had to rely on external third-party apps, right? Well, not anymore. Let's walk step by step through exactly how you, as an administrator, can set up, configure, and awaken this really powerful new capability.
Here is our game plan for today. We'll start by meeting the expense module, then move on to expense agent setup, cover global expense policies, look at defining categories, and wrap up with per diem and mileage rules.
Section 1. Meet the expense module.
Okay, let's talk about why this is such a big deal. The core value proposition here is just massive. By bringing expense reports natively into Business Central, you are instantly reducing your architectural complexity, and honestly, you're lowering costs too. You literally no longer need those external integrations just to capture, approve, or reimburse employee expenses. Your team can create reports, itemize their costs, and log mileage directly inside the system. It gives your finance and ops teams a perfectly seamless experience, and it guarantees much higher data accuracy across the board.
Section 2. Expense agent setup.
All right, let's get our hands dirty. To get this AI-driven agent up and running, you're going to head over to the General Fast tab in the Expense Agent Setup. First up, Microsoft highly recommends applying the default settings just to establish a solid baseline. Second, you'll want to toggle Enable Agent so it can actually start processing submissions. Third, and this one is absolutely critical, you need to configure the shared mailbox account that the agent is going to monitor. And finally, just toggle Process Incoming Emails with Receipts. By following that exact sequence, you are literally awakening the AI, giving it permission to scan that designated inbox and automatically process any incoming emails that have employee receipts attached.
Section 3. Global Expense Policies. So the AI is awake, but now we need to give it some boundaries, right? Over on the Rules and Controls Fast tab, we establish the system's compliance guardrails. This is where you activate policy enforcement for the whole organization. Now listen carefully. You absolutely must toggle Apply Rules On. If you don't do this, none of your specific expense rules will actually be enforced when people submit things. You're also going to want to set your retroactive date limits. So typing in -90D means employees simply cannot submit expenses that are older than 90 days. Pretty standard. Also, toggling Check Category Usage makes sure your users are actually picking valid category and subcategory combinations. Now, what happens when someone actually breaks that age limit rule we just set up? Well, the system gives you 3 specific ways to handle it. You can set it to Warn, which basically just flags it for the user, but still lets the submission go through. You can bump it up to Require Justification, which forces the employee to type out a little explanation for why they're so late. Or if you want to take the strictest route, you can choose Block Submission. That completely stops that old expense from even entering the workflow. No exceptions.
Section 4. Defining categories.
An expense category is essentially how we group things like meals, travel, or office supplies. It's the bridge that links whatever the user inputs directly to the general ledger posting group. But here's a massive pro tip for you. The category description field holds up to 250 characters. Use them. Use all of them if you can. A highly detailed, verbose description is absolutely crucial for the expense agent to do its job right. The AI relies heavily on this text to understand the context of the receipts it's pulling in. Think about it. If you just type flights, the AI might get a little confused by extra fees. But if you write out commercial air travel, including tickets, taxes, seat selection, and baggage fees, the agent's accuracy is going to skyrocket.
While we are getting our terms straight on the expense card, we really need to untangle 2 pieces of jargon that trip people up. Refundable versus reimbursable. Refundable just means the expense follows company policy and it's valid to post to the general ledger. Reimbursable means the employee paid for it out of their own pocket and we actually owe them money. So picture a company credit card. An expense on that card is refundable because it's a legitimate business cost, but it is definitely not reimbursable because, well, the company already footed the bill.
Section 5. Per diem and mileage rules.
Let's start with mileage. You configure this over on the Allowance Fast tab within the Expense Agent setup. First, you set the standard rate of mileage, which is just the exact dollar amount your organization pays out per distance unit. Then, you pick your default mileage unit of measure, so miles or kilometers. And I love this next feature. When an employee enters their starting point and their destination, there's a simple little round trip toggle. They click that, and the system automatically doubles the distance and calculates the reimbursement instantly. Super clean.
When we move over to per diems, we really need to talk about the why before the how. You might be wondering why a basic country code isn't enough. Well, it's because you need highly granular expense locations. A daily meal allowance in a massive, expensive metropolitan city is going to be completely different from a small, rural town, right? Even if they're sitting in the exact same country.
To actually build out that level of detail, here is your 3-step blueprint. First, you create the expense locations by combining the country code with specific cities or states. Next, you jump into expense management rules and create a new rule that links your per diem expense category to that new specific location. Finally, down in the rule conditions, you just select daily rate and punch in the actual monetary value for that exact geographic area. Setting up a flat daily rate is great, but there's always one question that comes up during every single implementation, and it's one I was super curious about too. How exactly does Business Central handle partial travel days?
Well, before it can calculate a partial day, the system needs to know what you consider a full day. Back on the Allowances FAST tab, you have 3 main ways to calculate this. First is full calendar day, which means the employee has to be away from midnight to midnight. Then there's the 24-hour rolling period, which calculates full days in strict 24-hour blocks starting the exact minute they leave. And finally, overnight stay, which grants a full per diem simply if the person spends a night away from home and hits a certain minimum hour requirements.
Once you've nailed down your full-day method, you handle the partial days using one of 2 options. If you're using that full calendar day method, you're usually going to pair it with the flat percentage of full rate option. So maybe you pay out a flat 50% of the per diem on travel days. But if you went with the 24-hour rolling or overnight stay methods, you'll want to use the based on eligible hours option. That way, the partial payout is calculated dynamically based precisely on the number of qualifying hours they were actually on the road. By setting up all these configurations, from getting the AI agent to read that mailbox, to defining those verbose category descriptions, all the way down to pinpointing city-level per diems, you are completely transforming how your company handles out-of-pocket costs, all natively inside Business Central. So I'll leave you with this to think about. With those clunky external apps gone, AI automatically extracting receipt data, and your compliance rules enforcing themselves before a report is even submitted, how much time is your finance team going to reclaim this month? Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy configuring.